Everyone, this is a tutorial for Esoteric Wardancer. I will explain to you what I run and how it works, what gems and what tribals I use, etc. And like how to play the class. Well, first, Wardancer, what kind of class is it? It's a general pretty tanky class, but the deep damage, especially before the Relic set, is, let's say, quite underwhelming. You get outdamaged by most classes, but once you get the Relic set, I run the Dominion set. Once you get the Dominion set, it usually it spikes, especially with 6 set. There are some requirements before this, but I'll explain those later. Wardancer has for the synergy, Wardancer raids has pretty decent synergy. Especially your main skills, War of Courage and Wind's Whisper. War of Courage decreases the enemy's crit resistance, and Wind's Whisper gives your allies attack speed and movement speed. So this is Wardancer a great guy to have in your party, or girl I guess, in your party. Let's explain what Esoteric Wardancer actually is. So Wardancer has 2 class engravings. You have First Intention and you have Esoteric Skill Enhancement. Now, I run Esoteric Skill Enhancement, which becomes decent after the Relic set, but before that you can run First Intention. What First Intention does is it does damage, it buffs your normal skills and removes your esoteric skills, and the Esoteric Skill Enhancement buffs your esoteric skills. That's basically it. You can see that the level 1, level 2, level 3 is like 2% difference between each level. I usually run this class at level 1, but you can also run it at level 3. It isn't that impactful. What does it do? For each bubble you have for your skills, you get 8% extra damage on level 1, which I run. So what does that mean? Well, Wardancer's identity has 4 bubbles down here. You fill these bubbles by attacking, so you see if I do skills, it slowly gets filled up. Some skills fill it up more than others. And you can see I have 2 esoteric skills over here. The Esoteric Blast Formation and Call of the Wind God. I can't use these skills right now, but as soon as I hit 2 bubbles, these skills get unlocked. So these are 2 spender skills, which means they need 2 bubbles to be activated. And as soon as I activate one of these skills, you see I lose exactly 2 bubbles. So what does the class engraving, how does this impact on the class engraving? Well, the class engraving gives more damage for each bubble you have. Well, since these skills already need 2 bubbles to activate, I will count it as base damage. For each extra bubble you have, it will do more damage. So if I have 2 base bubbles to activate these skills, and I got a 3rd bubble just unlocked, it does 8% more damage because of level 1. So right now it does, let's say, the base damage. Once I increase this, let me reset the coolness to 3 or 4 bubbles. Now for the 3rd bubble gives me 8%, the 4th bubble gives me 16% extra damage on that skill. So now 60% extra damage, and you see I lose 2 bubbles, so next skill will do just the base damage until I increase it again. So 8% more damage. That's how it works. So your whole kit is basically around filling up these bubbles and then using esoteric skills. There are some other builds in Wardancer. There are builds which run 3 times 2 spender, so they run 3 esoteric skills. I'll show there are multiple. This is a 1 spender, 1 spender. This is another 2 spender. I usually run this one. They run 3 of the 3 skills. These 2 I already have, and this one. But they run full specialization to fill these bubbles up faster. What I run is full swiftness, with secondary specialization just to get some extra bubble regeneration. There's also, by the way, this 3 times 2 spender is the highest current DPS in Korea. This one is like the medium, and there's also one which is like the lesser one, which also runs full swiftness. But instead of specialization, you run crit, and you run 1 2 spender. Well, and there are multiple. For the Relic set, like I said, I run the Dominion set. I only have the 4 set currently. I will run the 6 set soon. What the Dominion set actually does, it gives you your Awakening skill does 50% less damage, but you get 1 more usage for each level, or for each set bonus level. And your skill cooldown goes down each level as well. So for the first one, it gives 18%, second one 80%, and third one it gives 30. As also the damage is 10, 25, and 15. And your awakening has 20% less cooldown. So yeah, so when you use your awakening, you pretty much get this buff. I'll show it quickly. I use it now, and I should get a buff. Here it is. In our awakening, 8% cooldown reduction and 25% damage. Okay. So what abilities do I use? Well, let's check it out. So I run. Well, I will talk about these skills first. The Wind's Whisper and War of Courage. These are like the core of any Wardancer build, pretty much. Like I said, War of Courage with these tripods gives you, especially this last one, gives you the crit resistance to the bosses or enemies. This is 10% crit resistance and also helps your allies, so it's pretty good. The other one is just the duration and more bubble gain. For Wind's Whisper, you use Blessing of the Wind to get more attack speed. You can also use Oath of the Wind to get more mana regeneration, but I will talk about that later. Quick Grab to get it up more often, and Ready Attack to get more damage for 6 seconds, like 50% at tribal level 4 or 5 in this case. Furthermore, you use Sky Scattering Blow. This one is not as important. It's nice to have at least the first tripod. The second one is optional. What it does is when you use it, it gives like this is like your main counter. You use it, you dash a little, I'll show it. You dash a little, and this is like your counter. If you do it in a combo, both of these are a counter. I'll show some in depth more later. Furthermore, you have Energy Combustion, also Esoteric Extortion, gives you more meter or identity. I call them the same name. Tense Battle gives you more damage for on foes each hit. And Last Whisper is like a final explosion after it ends. So I just use it, and it's like an aura around me, and you see it damages foes. If I stand in between foes, you can do double damage, but the range isn't that big. If I stand a little bit down, I already don't hit them anymore. And you see the duration right here. At like 5 seconds left, it starts turning red and orange, and then it disappears for a second and then explodes. That's saying massive damage if you have some buffs active. This is a really good skill for just getting more meter, and also the big burst at the end can be really powerful if you had a lot of procs on it. Furthermore, I'll show. By the way, I'll show you how these other two skills, War of Courage and Wind's Whisper. War of Courage is just you scream, and a short radius the enemies get affected, and Wind's Whisper is just you use it, and all your allies get the buff. As simple as that. Next up, Flash Heat Fang. This one is especially used just to do some extra damage and to proc Judgment, because this does 9 hits. You run Fist of Darkness for elemental damage and crit rate. Weakpoint Detection for more damage against bosses, and Adrenaline Rush for some more crit rate and damage. As you can see, it's pretty close range, and if you use it, that's what it looks like. Next up, the most important two skills, Esoteric skills, these are like your main damaging skills. You run Lightning Storm for like the more damage. Grove Attack, so you do more damage the longer the attack hits an enemy. The more it hits, the more damage it does. And the Summon Storm is so you can do other skills while it spawns. So you see if I use it, it stays on the boss, like it follows the boss around and it keeps doing more damage. Blast Formation is also more damage against Push Immune. Flame Explosion for some more tick damage, and Great Explosion is like the final one, which does a lot of damage. I'll show you, if you use it, it does boom, boom, and the last one is the biggest one, and it does like 9 more explosions at the end. I'll use it away from the boss. So that's what it looks like. And lastly, we have the Flash Moonkick. This is your main identity generator. Your White Flame Kick gives you a lot of meter. Single hit, more damage. Full Moonkick, also more damage. If you use it, it does have like a dash, and you get like a one full orb of identity for it with like some decent specialization stats. So these are your main skills. Now for the runes. For Moon Flash Kick, you definitely want to run Legendary Wealth, or at least the highest wealth you have. For Blast Formation and Cup of the Wind Cult, you want Gilwind for both. You can run Legendary on either. It's which one you prefer. Then we have Energy Combustion. You can run Wealth on this one as well. but I'm currently having some mana issues, at least in single player content or without support. So I run Focus. Skyscraping below, you want to proc your Conviction. This is like the skill you want to start your combo with usually. Now if you don't hit it, you're sad, but if you do hit it, I'll try it again. If you do hit it, you see this icon, and then you can use your other skill, which has Conviction on it, to proc this buff. This buff gives you CDR and 100% more mana regen, so double pretty much. As you can see, I run Judgment on this one. You want to have these at legendary for sure. If there are less, it's also fine, but it's really annoying. Then Wind Whisper has Rage for some more damage and attack speed. It's fairly attack speed and movement speed, and movement speed calculates the damage with Raid Captain. You can also run Focus on this one if you're really mana thirsty. And Roar of Courage is also Wealth. So let me talk a little bit about your mana issues, because Wardancer, especially with the Dominion set and Esoteric 2-spender, has a lot of mana issues. Like, you spam your skills so much that you run out of mana after like 4 or 5 rotations, depending how quickly you do them. To solve this, you usually just want to support, and supports like give you more mana regen or whatever. They just give you mana, or what's called like whatever. You just get mana. I forgot what it's called. Oh, magic. That's what it's called. And well, I don't currently have a support and Triction, and I usually just run Focus anyway. Another solution, like I mentioned earlier, is Oath of the Wind to get more mana regeneration, or run Focus on this one as well. So you can check for yourself what you like and if you really have mana issues or not. The more wealth, usually the better, because you get more orb generation, which equals more damage. But if you don't have the mana for it, you don't do damage anyway. So this is like a small solution for it. Next up is the tripods. Oh well, I guess this is also tripods. Your main tripod you want to focus on is definitely Ready Attack, Quick Prep, Less Whisper. Well, any of these honestly. Like everything from your esoteric skills are really important, especially Great Explosion and Weakpoint. And yeah, those are the main things. And for level 3s, you want White Flame Kick at least, because you get more the regeneration. And any other level 3 is also good. So those are your main tripods. As for gems, I run damage on the Energy Combustion, cooldown and damage on the Moonflash Kick. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Your Moonflash Kick isn't mandatory. You can exchange this with another skill. For example, people also run Sweeping Kick with this instead of Moonflash Kick. It's just another way of generating your orbs. So this is like replacement. It's like just what you prefer. I like the Moonflash Kick because it gives me like a dash, which is nice. Furthermore, for the gems, you have Skyscraping below. Your counter cooldown is enough because it doesn't do that much damage. Wind Whisper cooldown. This one is just damage for your esoteric skill. Cooldown and damage, and this one is cooldown and damage. As for the cards, I currently run the HP set. Of course, Light of Salvation is for the Legion Rages the best. Or Lost Wind Cliff is also better than what I run usually, but I don't have the crit set. It's called Lost Wind Cliff, so I run this one, which is a decent replacement. Wardancer skills have a lot of back attacks, but it's not really that mandatory to hit from the back. The damage is pretty much nihil, but you can back attack if you really want to. But if you can't back attack, it's safer on the side. You should just focus on damaging the boss on the side. Now let's talk about the Dominion set and how that works with your Awakening. So if I use my Awakening, I just immediately cancel it to get the buff immediately. Your Awakening does 50% less damage, so it's better. So it's not really that's worth it to use the full Awakening. You rather want to just use your skills, which get buffed by the Dominion set, by the skill damage plus 25%. You rather just want to do another rotation, which does way more damage than your Awakening anyway. That's why I usually cancel it. However, there's a problem. My Awakening has like 2.5 minutes of cooldown. Like it says 5 minutes, but I have 50% cooldown from my Dominion set. I think it's 50%. At least you have. It doesn't really matter how much I have. It's not good enough currently. because it will run out before I get it back up again. This buff, this inner awakening buff, will run out before my awakening skill gets back up again. Well, there are some solutions for this. Some people run engraving awakening. I will talk about the engravings a little later, but some people run the engraving awakening. Another solution is to use your dominion or your awakening in the spawn. You know, they're like where you can change battle items at spawn. Some people change their engravings at spawn, like they remove their 2 engravings and take awakening engraving, and then use your ultimate or awakening, and then change back to their main engraving to get the cooldown reduction and another use. Well, you see it's already 30 seconds left, and this one still has more than a minute cooldown. So the downtime is, so you pretty much don't have a relic set for when the inner awakening is at the downtime. Another solution to this is if you, here, let me show you, if you hit conviction-judgement before you use your ultimate. Now it's conviction-judgement, I use my ultimate or my awakening, and now the conviction-judgement, which is like I think 15% cooldown reduction, is also applied to my awakening skill, which is pretty big. So once this gets off cooldown right now, I have like 7 seconds without my inner awakening, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. It's bad to not have your relic set active, but it's fine if you hit conviction judgment. Well, you can't hit conviction judgment always in the fight, but if you can, try to hit it. If you don't hit it, if you are unlucky and don't hit your conviction judgment like after your inner awakenings of cooldown, I usually just use my awakening anyway, like right off cooldown, because you're missing so much DPS. But that's like using awakening engraving is like a backup for that, I guess. While talking about engravings, let's talk about engravings anyway. So I run Grudge, Curse Duel, Raid Captain, Mass Increase, Adrenaline 2 and Class Engraving on 1. You can, what people in Korea usually run on 2 set is, instead of either Curse Duel or Mass Increase, is Keen Blunt Weapon 3 and Adrenaline 3. That's probably a better build as well. I just run this because it was a little bit easier to build. But that's a more optimal build, but this is also just a fine build. Like I said, you can build pretty much anything on Wardancer as long as you have Warden's Whisper and War of Courage correctly set up. So that's like the main engravings you want to focus on. You run Mass Increase, by the way, because you get enough attack speed from Wind's Whisper anyway. So you're not really affected by the attack speed nerf, and your skills are also pretty fast in general. So that's the main thing, and Raid Captain because you go full swiftness. For the combat stats, like I earlier said, I run full swiftness and pretty decent spec. I run high spec on my necklace, just to get a little bit more damage on my esoteric skills and a little more orb generation. Okay, so I'll show you the rotation of Wardancer. Let me just reset everything. And I'll do a timer as well for 2 minutes. I'll show you how Wardancer plays without mana regeneration / support. You run out of mana quickly. So I'll try to hit Conviction Judgement at the beginning. Okay, I hit it, good. Or did not, I guess. Let me try that again. Try to test. Okay, I hit it this time. I use my Awakening. I use this skill. Use my combo. And then I pretty much wait. What people don't know is that your Conviction Judgement, some people don't know, is that your Conviction Judgement has like a hidden cooldown timer. It's around 30 seconds, I think. Before you can proc it again. So sometimes you try to hit your skill which has conviction, but your conviction judgment is on cooldown. So what was my rotation just now? I first tried to start with my counter or my 2-hit combo to hit the conviction rune. Then I hit my flash heat fang for the judgment rune. Then I use my awakening to get the cooldown reduction on it. Then my energy combustion to start the procs, these hits. Then I did War of Courage, Wind's Whisper. I used them in this combo because my War of Courage has a little longer cooldown than my Wind's Whisper. So if I use it first, it gets off cooldown earlier. So I can use my combo again. After I use this combo, I use my first skill, well, the Wind Gold. Second skill, Flash Heat, what's it called? Moon Flash Kick. And then Decimation at the end. What's really important is that you use your 3 main damage skills, or at least your 2 esoteric skills, before your Wind's Whisper and War of Courage run out. So what I usually do is start off with my Call of the Wind God, because every hit of the Wind God, as soon as Wind's Whisper is active, gets buffed by the damage. But if Wind's Whisper runs out, you don't get the damage anymore. So let's say I have, let me just recover resources. Let's say I use my Wind's Whisper, wait a little bit, and now use this skill. It gets a buff from Wind's Whisper now, and now it doesn't get the buff anymore, so it does less damage. So you want to make sure you use your skill pretty much finishes with all their damage procs before Wind's Whisper and War of Courage run out. So that's like the main thing. So I showed you combo once more. I tried to hit conviction-judgement. Okay, I didn't hit it. Let me just try again. Conviction-judgement. Okay, hit it this time. Use my awakening. Energy combustion. War of Courage, Wind's Whisper. Call of the Wind God. Flash, move flash kick. And then last skill is blast formation. And then I just rotate these skills of cooldown until they're back up again. Tornado. Have to wait a little bit. So, and it pretty much goes on like this. What you need to be mind of, which I am not by currently, is when your energy combustion procs. So when I use it, it has 20 seconds before it explodes. I want to make sure that my Wind's Whisper and War of Courage, or at least my Wind's Whisper, is active when it explodes. Now Wind's Whisper buffed stays for like 6 seconds. So you want to make sure you use it when it says 5, because at 5 it's 6 seconds. It's a little confusing, but when it says 5 seconds you can use Wind's Whisper and the damage gets applied. Okay? Okay, so that's pretty much the main thing for that. If you use this off cooldown, you usually hit it, but you need to be a little mindful of it. You keep an eye on it pretty much. So once it turns red, you want to use Wind's Whisper. That's the main thing. I use Call of the Wind God first before I use my Moon Flash Kick and then Great Explosion, because well, you can use either, but this one I prefer using this one because it's pretty much preference. Because this one does like a lot more damage, or like a lot more ticks. Now, the Great Explosion can also be used first, but I don't really like it. You can use it like this. But sometimes you see you miss like the last couple procs of your tornado when because your Wind's Whisper runs out too early. Another thing, I use my Moon Flash Kick in between esoteric skills because let me just poke it back up again. You see, if I use it now and then use Moon Flash Kick, I can get another extra bubble. So let's say, let me just reset it like this. Let's say I do it like this. I use skill, Moon Flash Kick, and I get another extra bubble, which is like 80% because of my class engraving. So I do a little more damage on the next esoteric skill, because I gain another extra bubble with it. So that's why I use this one in between to get just a little bit more damage. Yeah, so that's pretty much the main way to play Wardancer, at least the esoteric Wardancer. So how do you hit some skills? Well, let's say for the counter first. Your counter is, like I said, first a dash and then you can combo it into like a knock-up. Yeah, I'll show it on this enemy. You dash and you can knock him up in the second one from any angle. What's nice with this ability is that both hits are a counter and you can dash around people. So if I want to dash around this guy, I can do it like this and then hit him from the side. It's back attack, but like I said, it doesn't really matter. As for counter, it's really nice, like, oh shit, I want to counter the boss, and you just get in front of him and then use his ability to counter him. As for the Flash Heat Fang, you have to be pretty close to the boss to hit it, like this barely hits. If I'm a little bit more back, I don't hit him anymore, so be mindful of that. Same thing with War of Courage and Wind's Whisper, especially, I mean War of Courage especially, like this already misses. This barely hits. But like if I'm a little in between, yeah, I'm missing right now. If you miss this, you lose like a lot of damage. So be careful of that. Same with the explosion from energy combustion. Like I showed earlier, if I stand like barely this hits. I guess this guy's ass is just too fat, but like this barely hits. If I stand a little bit to up, it already doesn't hit. This one doesn't hit, and the explosion area is not that big either. It's pretty much the same as the hits. So if you hit, the explosion hits. But if these hits don't hit, the explosion doesn't hit. As Call of the Wind God, because I have Summoned Storm, I summon it at my location. If I summon it too far away, see, it has to travel to the boss before it does damage. So you want to make sure to always like spawn it at the boss. So immediately, oh, a little bit of lag. So it immediately does damage. Same like move flash kick in between. You can still hit it like this, or barely miss, I guess. The most important part is that this is this area that you can hit boss in is pretty big, and it has like a dash. So I can use it from afar away. Like let's say the boss dashes, I can dash after my dash with my move flash kick to do more damage and use my next skill. Last skill, the great explosion. You prefer want to hit every single proc on the boss, because the last proc does the most damage, and there's like a little bit more explosions at the end, which do a lot of damage. So you want to make sure to hit the whole thing. Let's say you have like a smaller boss, let's say the Scarecrow is a boss. You can't hit it if you stand too close. The last hit is the most important. I pretty much missed the whole last hit. But what you can do is stand a little bit back, and you see he still hit the last attack and hit most of the small attacks at the end. The first attack doesn't really matter that much, but if you want to hit most of it, you can. Oh, that's the wrong skill. Sorry. You can always do it like this, and proc like all of them. So that's like the main way to use this skill. Try to keep in mind, if it's like a small boss, stand a little bit farther back with at least the main attack. Well, that was that. So your main stagger skills. Wardancer doesn't really have that good of stagger. This one's mid. This one is a lot of stagger. You usually still want, like even if stagger attack, you still want to use your War of Courage and Wind Whisper first, even if they don't have any stagger, because the damage is just you miss like 50% damage, pretty much, right? So even if stagger attack, try to use these skills first, unless you're like really desperate. This one is like decent. This one, yeah, not even stagger. This one also not stagger. So pretty much, Call of the Wind God and Flash Heat Thing. That's pretty much it, and these one are just the average. And for destruction skills, you have two destruction skills. You have your War of Courage, does destruction level 1, if you hit it at least. Destruction, and this one does destruction as well, but only the last hit. So only this hit is destruction, only that one. If you cancel it early by dashing, you don't get the last hit, right? Okay. Also, you can dash out of most items, but your esoteric skills you can't dash out of, neither your moon flash kick. The ones you can dash out of is pretty much only this attack and your sky-scanning blow, which is really nice because you can combo your sky-scanning blow if you got a lot of distance early. So you can see, usually this combo is like this, and then you can walk again. But if you cancel it with your spacebar, this was not that clean, you can pretty much do it immediately. You can cancel it anytime in your dash. What you can do is you can run out of corners like this. Let's say you need to dodge an attack, like oh. There you go. So that's nice. All the other skills you can't unfortunately cancel. But your spacebar has 5 seconds cooldown anyway, or 6 seconds. So it's fine. Your spacebar isn't that important. Because it's up pretty much always. Well, how do you play Wardancer raids? Well, you want to be really mindful of this combination. This, then your esoteric skills, move flash kick, and then this skill. These are the most important skills to hit. Of course, the energy combustion skill is also really important to hit, but it's every 20 seconds. So you can just vibe in between. But this main combo is like, you want to hit everything from this main combo. So you need to make sure the boss is like either standing still or is not planning on moving. And if he does move, try to move towards the boss before you use another skill, because like I said, this tornado has to travel. Let's say the boss jumps away. This tornado has to travel, does no damage, and only now does damage. Same with your great explosion. You miss like if you miss most of the attacks. Like this still does some damage, but it's not optimal, right? But that's what you want to focus on. Just make sure the boss like stays still, or you can hit most of your procs. Well, that's pretty much the main thing of Wardancer. Like when do you play this class? Yeah, you play this if you like high mobility, high swiftness characters, run around, and do a lot of damage on the boss in a short burst of time, while still having quite decent attack speed, and dashing around again because of the low cooldown. And it's just fun around to run the boss, do a lot of damage, dodge everything. Yeah, it's pretty much the main gameplay of Wardancer. You can also run first intention if you don't like the having to wait for some skills, but still first intention Wardancer is pretty much the same as this Wardancer, but you're a lot more spammy. You're like everything is just always on off cooldown, so you just spam this, spam, next skill, scam. That's been our first intention. This one is like more calculated between how many orbs do I have, did I pour conviction judgment, etc. So it's a little challenging to keep track of all that, but if you like that, I recommend the class. And like I said, it becomes good after the Relic set. Before that, it's kind of a disaster. Well, just make sure you enjoy it. See ya.